Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down 7 common champions you might have and the best builds for them for the new live arena seasons. And to do that, I'm joined by an arena master. It's Big Papa Drock. How's it going, Drock?
Hey, Nub, what's up, man? It's going well, dude. Super stoked to talk arena with your audience, man.
Yeah, let's do it. I've definitely seen, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen a lot more players actually diving in and trying live arena now that you do have these seasonal rewards. It actually, I don't know, one thing I will point out at the start, now that there's bots in live arena, that's a controversial thing. But one good thing is, because you get a bot if you lose 3 fights in a row, and you get +9 for winning and -3 for losing, it means that worst case, you lose 3, -9, but then you get a bot, so +9. So I think it's actually really hard to drop down many points. I think you'll mostly go up. So that's good news for players who are trying to get this stuff. But nonetheless, it's intimidating. It's tough. Yeah. Have you been playing much live arena so far before we dive in?
I did a big session the other night. I streamed for the first time in a while and did like a nice 3-hour session. And that was really interesting. I think there's a lot of stuff that they have to iron out still with this new season. And I have lots of opinions, and I'm sure you do and your audience does as well, on things they could change or improve. You know, I will say it's nice at least that we have some form of a season. But yeah, I played quite a bit the other night, and I would say the one thing that surprised me was the matchmaking was a little. I was like getting matched with people that were 4,000 or 5,000. I was like, okay, this hopefully will improve over time. It reminded me when Live Arena first came out, because people hadn't climbed the leaderboard. So my hope is just that it improves over time, so that people are more excited to play, because nobody wants to be on an account facing someone that's like 7 million times stronger than you and just get absolutely curb stomped. Yeah. So other than that, I had a decent time. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, guys, make sure to go check out Drock's channel, of course, if you haven't already. He's one of the best YouTubers for Raid and one of the absolute best for Arena in particular. So yeah, check out that stream. We're going to touch on Wukong, because I did see that you were using Wukong, and like you've got one of like the top accounts in the game. You've got insane champs, insane builds. But even for you on your account, Sun Wukong still not only viable, but something you're actively picking in live arena. So do you want to talk us through like what is the best build? This is my build for Sun Wukong. Is it any good? What is better? I've got lots of ignore defense. I think he doesn't have a cat's gaze though. I'm presuming that would be something to consider. Walk us through what's the best build, masteries, how have things changed, if anything, for Wukong?
Yeah, well, I think the number one thing to talk about with any build, and I want to say this up front, is everything is relative to your account. So keep in mind, I'm approaching this from an endgame perspective, and so some of the numbers I may be throwing out are things that other accounts can never hit, and that's okay. The general idea of building champions stays the same, even if you can't hit some of the ridiculous stats that I might talk about. So I want to be upfront about that, because I think it's really important to note that it is relative to what you can do. But in my opinion, the overall best build for Sun Wukong is if you can do it, a really good 9-piece Merciless build. Surprise, surprise. It's really, really, really hard to achieve a 9-piece Merciless build, even for accounts like mine. And the other thing too is that, Sun Wukong really blossoms when you have him fast, right? Like you want him to be fast, one of your faster nukers. So, for example, my Sun Wukong is built with around 330 speed, right? Which surprisingly is still not fast enough for my level. I would love to have him 350 and up, which is ludicrous. Right? Like ludicrous to think of a nuker being that speed. But at the high end, many, many, many people run their nukers that fast. But I can't get him, for example, into a 9-piece Merciless build with that kind of speed. It's just not possible on my account yet. So I've got him, I think, in Savage for the moment. You could certainly run him in Savage and Feral, get some additional accuracy on him. I personally like him as kind of that, a little bit of blend where you have enough accuracy to potentially sheep a nuker if you don't kill them with that A2. I think overall he is best built as a damage dealer. So 9-piece Merciless, ideally, if you can get it. If you can't get 9-piece Merciless, then certainly Savage with a little bit of Feral, like 1 piece of Feral is good. And then also you could hypothetically run him with some Pinpoint as well. So Savage Pinpoint. Because then you avoid potentially getting sheeped on that A3, or even crowd controlled by someone like Armanz if you don't go first, if you have one stack of intercept. So still a super viable champion. And the biggest reason why you want him fast is when he does die, that speed plays a part into when he takes that next turn. If he is
Right.
really slow when he dies, he is not going to get a turn before he's killed again. And you're not building him with any type of sustain, right? Like
Yeah.
he is going to die a lot. Like that's what he does. The dude just dies, but he comes back and he kicks butt. So
True.
that's why it's so important to have that speed on him, is because when he does come back, you want him to have a better chance of getting at least one turn off
Mm.
before he dies again.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, like, does anyone ever run him in, like, 4-piece stone skin or any reaction, or is that not really a priority? It's just let him die. It's
It's
fine.
honestly, you're better off letting him die because he's coming
Mm.
back at 100% turn rate, and then if he's fast, he's going to take his turn faster anyway. Like you used to see a little
Fair.
bit, like let this guy go down, Nub.
Let him die,
Don't
man.
prop him up.
I
I
love it.
think it's for him. It's one of those nukers where it's really not necessary. You don't need to
Yeah.
put stone skin on him. It's not. It's not going to help you. It's not going to make, in my opinion, it's not going to make a major impact.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because he's going to be coming back. And then for relics, yeah,
Yes.
Cat's Gaze.
Cat's
Cat's
Gaze,
Gaze
yeah.
is, if you've got a Cat's Gaze, throw it on your Sung Wukong because it makes that A2
Yeah,
that
go
much
crazy.
more dangerous. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Where if you've got an extra 10% ignore defense with a Savage build, hypothetically there, you're ignoring 85% without Helm Smasher having to proc. And if you've got him in Merciless, now you're ignoring 95% without Helm Smasher having to proc. And that's assuming you have like a fully leveled up Cat's Gaze, which nobody does at this point to my
No.
knowledge. But
Yeah.
yeah, Cat's Gaze on Sun Wukong, really, really, really good. He is still super viable and a phenomenal champion at the high end, as well as all across the game.
Sick. Cool. In terms of blessing, Ivan with polymorph, is that like still a go-to, or would you be switching that up to something else?
I think you can definitely still run them in polymorph. I mean, as more and more people get wand of submissions as
Mm.
relics, that will become a little bit harder to do, or at least more RNG based. But
Yeah.
polymorph isn't going away. It's still the most powerful anti anything that there is in the game. And if you are, the one who lands the sheep debuff, you're probably going to win that fight, right? So I think especially on Wukong, because if he gets debuffed and then dies, you don't care if you sheep somebody else in the process. Hey, that's a win. You know what I mean? That's a
Hmm. Hmm.
huge win. So yes, I personally run him in polymorph.
Okay. Cool.
But it depends on what you're doing on your teams, and also depends on, do you have him 5-star, 6-star? Like where's he at?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Well, hey, if polymorph's good enough for Drock, it's good enough for me. I'll stick with it. I'm low on gems too, so I'm glad to.
Yeah, exactly. On my free to play, I need more gems as well. So yeah, definitely hate switching any kind of blessing or mastery.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's a spicy one, and I'm curious what your take's going to be on this. If I move you out of the way, and me,
Yeah.
Helm Smasher is gone on Carnage. So let's talk about Carnage. And I don't know if this is a good or a terrible idea, but I think Carnage is incredible for Arena, and everyone can get him eventually, and he's likely, I think, to be a key part of many players' Arena rosters. I think he's pretty darn underrated. So I'm curious what you think about Carnage. Is he good, and what sort of build as well are you looking? I've got him here: 4-piece lethal, 4-piece stone skin with high-ish accuracy.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Stone Skin on this champion is basically an absolute must. You want him surviving, you want him counterattacking. And I will say this, like I was pretty low on Carnage initially, but I've lost to enough Carnages in Arena now at this point that I do think he is viable with certain comps, right? Like
Yeah.
you really need him to be able to stay alive. He certainly shines when you can put him up with other demon spawn. Like if you have a Volcanos and you can get a
Ooh.
Volcanos on the team with a Carnage, then he really becomes even
Oh, yeah.
nastier because you're turning Volcanos on as well, or at least adding that threat. But you don't need that for him to be good. And if you've got him in that Stone Skin build, he can feature in go second teams, provided you can keep him alive, right? Like the hardest thing with any champion nowadays, with a go second team, is speed is just so powerful.
Yeah.
And champions like Gizmak exist that can burn through any type of stone skin. So you have to be really cognizant of that. But like ideally for Carnage, you get him in stone skin, you throw him in lightning cage
Okay.
to
Yeah.
protect that stone skin from people like Marius. So that way, if
Mhm.
you're facing a Gizmak and a Marius, you could hypothetically ban the Gizmak and then rely on lightning cage
Mhm.
to keep you alive in that regard. But yeah, lethal stone skin, phenomenal way to build this champion. And you do want some accuracy on him. It's never a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got him at like
Though
400. I don't know if that's enough,
Yeah.
or do you feel like you be like, would you personally be looking for more than that? What are you aiming for? and
You
then we
know,
can get down.
I, I I don't think that's bad, right? I don't
Mm,
think that's bad because that's going to be enough to get through pretty much any nuker's resistance, unless someone has a really weird build going on. And again, his
yeah.
his damage is based on accurate attack and accuracy, so you can't go wrong
Mm,
stuffing more accuracy on there. The only thing is that on his first form, which is my opinion the best form for him to stay in for arena, he's not getting a damage boost off of accuracy like he does in his second form. So that's the one kind of downside there. But it is so important for his kit to land those debuffs and potentially spread them after he lands them.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so you need accuracy on this champion for sure. 400 is a great target. I don't think that's bad whatsoever.
Cool. Nice. Okay. Well, then we come to the mastery. So this is where, again, I went with that sort of thing. Hello, we're cuddling over here in the middle of the screen.
I'm like,
This,
hey
this,
baby,
hey, this is come into the mastery corner, Drock. The mastery
yeah,
corner.
let me come on in there. Oh,
Oh.
my sweet nubs.
So I don't know. Do you think this makes sense, or is this too crazy? Ditching the helm smasher to grab more accuracy. I basically said if I'm using him, I want the debuffs. Or is that like, ooh, that's a lot of damage gone down the drain there, Nub. You might be.
E-
Hmm.
this is where like the all relative thing comes into play, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Ideally, you're not using Eagle Eye if
Hmm.
you are building this champion. Ideally, you're keeping Helm Smasher, you're getting that extra damage that does make a big difference. Although it's only procking half the time, it can really improve what he does. But at the same time, if you're struggling to build this champion with enough accuracy to land those debuffs, what is Helm Smasher is only going to help you so much, right? Like
Hmm.
his main kit is getting those debuffs out there to block some of those abilities and passives, etc. So I don't know. Ideally, you're going Helm Smasher. If you can make it happen, that's the way to do it. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
are like sitting at 200 accuracy and you're really struggling because maybe you're a mid game account, and you happen to get Carnage.
Hmm.
Which if you're a mid game account, I don't know if that's actually what's happened,
Yeah,
but
probably not. You're pretty far
you know,
in, right? But
you're probably pretty far in. I mean, if you're mid-game account and you have Carnage, congratulations, you're an elite raid player, or you got super lucky.
yeah,
I don't know. I would try to put him in Helm Smasher if you
fair.
can, and then rely on maybe some of those accuracy masteries to help
Hmm.
you when
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
skills aren't on cooldown to try to make a difference in that regard.
Okay, okay. And what about Relic? So I have him because I didn't have too much good to put on him. Again, possible contender for Cat's Gaze. I've got him in Orb of Transfixion because of the counterattacks, but it's okay
Yeah.
with some accuracy gems in here. But what is the actual best Relic for Carnage? Is it just like Wand of Submission, or what are we talking here for him?
I mean, you could never go wrong with anyone that debuffs with a wand of submission. Like that,
Mm,
that relic is honestly the more people that get it, the more that polymorph,
got one.
will at least come with drawbacks, which is
Yeah.
important because of how strong it is in terms of, especially at the high end, because it's so slow. The champions just don't get turns. You just get annihilated if someone becomes a sheep. So I think Wand of Submission makes a ton of sense. Certainly a Cat's Gaze, any kind of attack based nuker, you're almost never going to go wrong with a Cat's Gaze. So that's fantastic. But yeah, I actually don't think Orb of Transfixion is a bad choice, right? Because
Yeah.
you're right. Like he is counter attacking there. The only question I would have is occurs once per skill, right? Like,
Yeah.
does that mean that it's so not clear
Yeah.
where
I don't know.
like this is where like the plarium wording comes back to bite us, right? Like,
Right.
is he eligible to steal buffs when he's counterattacking? Is that considered a skill? Is it not?
Yeah, that's
So
a good question. I'm not
that would
100%
be
sure. Yeah, because
that would
I
be the
haven't.
one thing I'd ask.
Mm. Okay.
You
And one
know?
thing with him that I think could be really strong, I got like, there was a Carnage that was doing so much damage, and I presume they got lucky with the gem, but there is one of them. Oh, yeah, this one, which again makes certain of those relics really
Yeah.
strong. If you get it, I don't have a single mythical gem yet, but if you did get this
Mm.
one, 50% more damage and counterattacking. I fought a couple of Carnages, and I'm like, oh my god, he's just going to counterattack my whole team to death.
Yeah.
Because his stone
Yeah.
skin survived, and he's just like, bop, 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 bop. Thank you very much. It's terrifying when that happens.
That's the thing when he gets working, especially when you're hitting people and he starts popping those counterattacks. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
he can really add up and quickly take down your champions. And yes, I think people also, and myself included, really underestimate how much these gems can change a champion's viability. And you see it in
Mm.
Carnage for sure. If you're lucky enough to land that mythical, gemstone and you have a Carnage, he's much more viable then because he's going to do way, way, way more damage.
Yeah.
So
You could put two.
Yeah.
If you had two, he would do
two
double
in a cat's
damage.
case.
That's
You
insane.
could literally put two into a cat's gaze. You know, like
Disgusting,
two
right?
into a cat's gaze, and you get potentially up to 20%
Yeah,
ignore
right?
defense and an attack and crit damage boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, power creep doesn't exist, guys. You
No.
know what I mean? Like, you know, it's a myth. It's a myth.
All right. Well, let's talk about one of my favorite champs to counter power creep. I freaking love Gnishak. Oh my god, the rat. He's just proven himself time and time again. I'm so depressed now when you see the feral sets with the lightning cage on Seekfriend. You're like, oh, Seekfriend, why? It used to be so much easier when you had Stone Skin. But yeah, like bombs for nice as well. There's a lot of champs, Commodus. If you beat them and you bomb them, suddenly these really tough mythicals, you can just take them out and it bypasses passives and crazy stuff. It's great. But this is a champ I'm personally thinking maybe I'll rebuild him because I don't know how this happened. It's clearly smoking something one day. I've got him in 7 pieces of pinpoint, not 4 or 6 or 9. 7 for some weird reason. So yeah, I definitely
very exciting.
One I'm probably looking to rebuild. I would think into like 4-piece pinpoint and 4-piece stone skin. But I'm curious what you think about the best build for him and again similar sort of stuff here.
Yeah, 4-piece theme here with any kind of bomb champ, right? Like you need one of the things that's changed a lot in Arena is people are pulling out, at least at the high level, again, keep all this relative, but people are pulling out Hegemon. They're pulling out champions that can really threaten your ability to,
Hegemon.
he's viable now, specifically for these kind of champions where they're only built in pinpoint and they don't have stone skin.
I have
and this is where stone skin.
Yeah,
I have him in a cascade as well.
Yeah, he's sick.
He is legitimately, if you have him super leveled up, again, big caveat, he can even break through some stone skin builds as well. So he's a real threat. But if you have your champions in stone skin, you are more likely to survive his stuff. And that's why I do think for bomb champions specifically, whether it's Gnishak, Commodus, anybody, stone skin and one set of pinpoint is probably your best overall build. It does introduce some levels of risk because you are throwing out enough debuffs there and people still have polymorph around that you might get sheeped. And that's rough. But realistically, you need to make sure that they can stay alive and you want flexibility in who you ban versus an enemy team. Like the ban phase is the most important thing in terms of determining your chances of winning. I mean, obviously account strength matters and things like that, but realistically, if you ban the right champion, you can, I don't want to say guarantee yourself a win, but greatly increase your chances. If you ban the wrong champion, you can pretty much guarantee yourself a loss. And so when you look at Gnishak, stone skin, pinpoint, definitely the way to go. 0 crit rate, don't even worry about it. Doesn't matter at all. Just pound him with accuracy and as high of an attack as you can possibly muster. And I use him all the time. He's fantastic.
There you go. Nice. What are your so just to give you context from my sort of stat level?
Yeah,
I have about 300 speed right now and about 500 accuracy. I've got a potential build. I can probably find I don't know, like a feral glove or something maybe at some point to get the extra accuracy. Maybe something like this in stone skin. Like this is okay, I think. Again, a lot of the champs I'm using him against often don't have high resist. But I'm curious, what is the level of like your Gnishak? What's the top tier Gnishak rocking?
So that's a great build you got there, right? That's not bad at all. I've got a +3 Gnishak that's fully awakened. Ooh. And so my stats, I'll read every stat off so we get the full picture. He's got 57,000 HP. He's got 8,000 attack.
Okay.
He's got 3,500 defense. 337 speed.
Nice.
15% crit rate, 145% crit damage, 358 resist, and 662 accuracy.
Okay, so that's like the biggest difference. Like he's a chunk faster in the big accuracy and a bit of attack. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'm not too far off actually. I'm doing all right. With the Gnishak.
You're doing great. And honestly, like the real reason why I have him high accuracy is if he ends up on a team where hypothetically, let's say I end up picking Commodus and I pick Gnishak because I do have a Commodus, so I can go full bomb action here. But you could go Shazar. You could go a lot of different ways. You could go what is his name?
There's Gaius as well, isn't there?
Yes, thank you, Gaius. I was going to say Galathir. I couldn't remember the G something. But there are other bomb champs you could use hypothetically if you don't have a Commodus. You don't have to have that. But the biggest reason why I'm having such high accuracy is with, at the high end, people occasionally will build their Galathir with really high resistance.
Yeah.
And so it is important sometimes to be able to land that kind of stuff. And when you have an increased accuracy buff coming in from someone like Arbaeus or
Right.
even Marius, it
Yeah.
becomes a
Yeah.
much more viable strategy. So I'd love to get his attack up. He doesn't have a great relic on him right now, and that's the biggest thing holding him back. I just need more relics.
Gotcha. What's so for my I've got him with Scroll of the Unseen, which is
Ooh.
more damage when you've got Veil and Perfect Veil. In other words, this is an attack with 2 circle gem stat stick.
Yes. He's getting lots of veils.
Yeah, Veils. Gnishak wouldn't know a Veil if it hit him in the face, but he'll take. I've got 2 now of these bomb things, 10% more damage, which is pretty juicy. So there you go. What
Yeah.
would be the best? Is he again looking at a Wand of Submission? I think that has some circles on it.
Wand of
Doesn't it?
Submission for sure. Wand of
Yeah.
Submission
Oh, yeah, 2
is
circles.
going to be your best bet here. You're lowering your chance of getting polymorph. You're increasing the chance of polymorphing somebody else. You know, we're just in an RNG fest era of Arena, guys. If you
Yeah.
like Arena, half the time you don't even know what the heck's happened anymore. I was playing the other night and I'm like, did I wand somebody? I don't know. You know, did they wand me? Who knows at this point? I can't tell what's going on. But
Yeah.
Wand of Submission for any kind of bomb champ, pretty much the standard. And yes, ideally you're throwing those increased damage gemstones in there, or hypothetically, if you're struggling with accuracy, you could throw the ignore 5% of the target's resistance when you place the bomb. I don't know what that one's called, but it's the purple one.
I've got one here. Oh, it's not going to
Yeah.
show me the name. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you have to destructive accuracy. Yeah, this would be your other option
Pretty
there.
good,
But
yeah.
either of those two, fantastic choices. And yeah, the more circle slots, the better.
Makes sense. For the blessing on him, I've got lethal dose. I mean, I'm only 2-star blessing, so it doesn't really matter. I like the extra damage from poisons because his passive turns bombs into poison. So like if a nice survives, which can happen because he's nice.
Yeah, he's really nice.
The poisons can help a bunch. I don't know. What do you run that on him, or are you looking at polymorph?
I've got him. I've got him in Lightning Cage. I've got him in Lightning Cage. Okay. Only because I just want to make sure I don't lose the Stone Skin and I don't lose the Pinpoint. Like it's the biggest determiner of whether or not you win a fight. Like if you lose those buffs, you are really, really cooked. But I think Lethal Dose, you see Lethal Dose all the time. That's a phenomenal option for Gnishak. One of the few champions that really benefits from it that you see at the high level.
Yeah.
You can see Calvalax or other people with it as well, but you don't see a ton of poisons in Arena at the high level. But on Gnishak, it is absolutely viable. Yeah, Lethal Dose is a great option.
Cool. All right. Well, let's jump to everyone. I mean, this champion I feel used to drive people crazy. I haven't seen anyone driven too mad by him recently, perhaps. But Ultimate Deathknight, again, a champ many of you will have gotten for free. I think he's still. I don't use him as much, obviously, as I did before, but I think he is still considered a fair staple in some high-end play. You know, great for countering champs like Rotus and stuff like that. Of course, even still. I mean, first of all, like, do you see Ultimate Deathknight used all that much in top end, or has he been sort of replaced now by Arbaeus?
Nowhere near as much as you did. You used to see him all the time. You'll still see him if you pick someone like a Rotos or potentially a Siegfried.
Yeah.
And Siegfried certainly is hardcore in the meta right now, so you'll still see him.
Yeah.
But you don't see him nearly as much, and that's because speed really is extremely powerful in a way it really hasn't been for years. I mean, like going first is, if you have the right team compound there, it's really, really, really tough to deal with unless you have champs like Nice at the high level. If you have a Nice, congratulations, or Siegfried and Feral, yeah, you might be able to get away with going second. I say might because you still might lose, but UDK still absolutely viable, still a really, really, really good champ. You just don't see him as much in live arena as you used to. You see him more in classic arena still.
Yeah, fair. Okay. In terms of like for players that are using him though, what build are we looking at? Like I've got him in the old 6-piece stone skin triple reaction. I think I've got him with almost 800 resist. I don't even know if he has, or he's got golden elixir just because for the sake of something to have, pretty much.
Sure, why not?
Why not, right?
Yeah.
But, I've heard some people talk about damage UDK. I don't know if that's how much of a thing that is, but I don't know. What is the sort of what are your thoughts on how to build a UDK?
Yeah, you do see damage UDKs every once in a blue moon, mainly because it's just a surprise where you're like, wait, what?
Right.
Like, this dude is cooking me. Well, I was not expecting that. And I think a lot of arena comes down to, can you surprise someone?
Yeah.
And I was facing a high-level arena player the other night. He won one, I won one. And on the second battle, I was set up to annihilate his team. and his Armanz just didn't take any damage. I was like, "Oh my god, he's got triple reaction on his Armanz, and he's still
Ooh.
fast." I was like, "Wow, I was not expecting that." Just completely shocked me, and I thought, "Oh god, if I can't kill the Armanz, I might lose here." And I ended up winning. It was really close though.
Mm,
That's the advantage there if you do something like a damage UDK. It's just really tough to pull off, right? Because if you're going damage on UDK, you're
mhm.
sacrificing so much survivability, and that is the main value of what he brings to a team, right? You want him tanking shots, you want him super slow, you want him to be your Rotos shield, your Siegfried shield, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Two schools of thought here. I think the lower you are in arena, the more viable resistance builds become. The higher up you are in arena, the
Mm.
less viable it is. Majority of the time, because again, it all depends on what you're facing and who you're facing. But for example, like if you're not at the high end of arena, a resistance UDK becomes a lot more usable than it would be if you're further up. Because further up, you're going to face people like Galathir or Crixia who are just going to rip through that
Yeah.
resistance no matter what you do. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
game's changed a lot.
Yeah, the
But
mythicals.
I love this build.
Okay, cool.
Triple reaction, Stone Skin. That is still the de facto standard for UDK. That triple reaction is so important and can really frustrate people. And it's incredible what he can do to shut down certain team comps. That's really the big advantage here. Is if you get him against the right team, they just can't kill you. They can't
Mm,
do anything. He
mhm.
really is the Rotos denier. So I think high resistance definitely viable. The other alternative is just stack this dude with as much HP and defense as you can. Like just get him absolutely stacked and make him just a magnet for soaking up damage.
Mm. Do you think do you ever see anything like bolster UDK? So like 4-piece bolster, triple reaction, and just tons of HP? Or no?
You know, you used to see more bolster in the past. I think
Mm,
people have gotten away from it because champs like Narcissus came into the game, or even like Alas, who can ignore some shields or get an extra hit on his A1 off of shield. You don't see shield as much at the high level as you used to. But I will say this: it's more viable than people realize if you are trying to build a go second team. Like
yeah.
if you can stack thick shields that Marius can't get through,
Right,
Bolster is
yeah.
probably your overall best bet to counter a Marius besides something like a Taurus Marichka combo.
Mhm.
But if you've got a massive shield, that Marius suddenly significantly less viable. So yeah, you could build a bolster EDK with the eye of like, look, I'm going to specifically try to target certain champions. But the only thing with UDK is he's really not a good Marius counter because everything Marius
Yeah,
does
AoE.
is
Yeah,
going to
it's true.
be AoE. So I think
Yeah.
this is why like no matter what level you're at, you have to think about who do you see the most often and why do you struggle versus them? And
Mm,
then the secondary question to that is okay, do I have the champions that maybe directly counter that strategy? Or if I don't have the champions, can I gear someone so strongly. Like maybe I really have god tier gear and bolster. Can I gear like a Ancora and bolster or a gear UDK bolster, whatever it is, to make it harder for people to beat me?
mhm. Cool. What about like blessings for UDK? I've got him Life Harvest. I'd guess like Temporal Chains or Lightning Cage or Polymorph at 6-star would all be decent as well.
Yeah, all great choices. I think I have mine in Life Harvest too because he's not
Okay.
6-star. I
Yeah.
would have him probably in Polymorph if he were 6-star, but not necessarily. Like the Life Harvest is sneaky, underrated,
Mm.
good blessing, where it can really screw with some team comps, just coming back and destroying so much max HP. So love Life Harvest on him, love Polymorph on him, and yeah, certainly Lightning Cage also viable. For sure to try to keep those Stone Skin on against if you do end up facing a Marius against a Marius.
Cool. What about relics? A golden elixir, unlikely to be too good. That's sort of there for the sake of it. I don't know. Like, are there relics you consider for UDK? I haven't even looked into that too much. I can sort of
You
tell.
know,
I've not used mine. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's so tough, right? Because what relics do you end up with? It's pretty hard to get good things in here.
Yeah.
Just looking through, I mean, certainly you could do things like let's take a look here. Gilded Dragonstone, where you're increasing your defense every time he's hit. You don't get
Oh
a
yeah.
massive amount of value out of that because unfortunately you'd rather have HP go up as opposed to defense.
Mm.
But it is something that you could hypothetically use. Let me take a look at the actual relic. There's like so many relics now at this point. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
heck
There's
do
a
we
lot.
even have?
I've been writing up articles
Uh,
for the website, and it's like my
Oh,
God, there's another set of 10 relics.
there's still one to be unveiled too, where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they've got clans, they've got live arena. What's the last one? Whale mode. You know, the more you spend, the better relics you get.
Maybe
Although
Siege. I could see a Siege one coming.
Siege, yeah, I could
That can
see a
happen.
siege.
Yeah.
I could see a siege. Orb of Transfixion maybe could even work with him too, where you're
Oh yeah.
potentially stealing buffs from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you hit somebody and maybe hypothetically, maybe you hit someone.
Steal
I
their
mean, they
stone
probably
skin.
wouldn't have stone skin, but you hit someone steal stone skin back,
Yeah,
which
like
would
they
be
steal your stone
hilarious.
skin, and you're like, "Hey, hang on a minute, I'll take that back, sir.
I'm
Thank
taking it
you."
back, baby. I'm taking it back.
Oh
But
man.
I would say any kind of relic that potentially increases your HP or defense,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if you're going the resistance route,
Yeah. Influence.
certainly you could go resistance with him as well, and then use a relic that's giving you bonus stats in that area.
Cool. All right, perfect. Okay. Let's jump in then. Oh, it's a man we all know and love, Armanz. A champion everyone
Mm,
who has him should be building, and I think for most lower level accounts, he's pretty much the first pick every single time. I think at higher levels you see other stuff picked first more now, but I think low level Armanz is still the go-to because he's so punishing. When you don't have a bunch of those, the wands might change stuff, right? But yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What do we think
He's
about Arman's builds?
Yeah, he's still such a menace in arena. I mean, like there are some more counters for him for sure, like than there were when he first came out, where it's just like just pray, or go first or ban him.
Right,
Um,
right.
so at the high level, you definitely have more counters, but he's still absolutely a menace.
Mm,
A lot of different ways you can run him. A lot of
yeah.
different ways you can run him. I've got mine in supersonic because I don't
Oh,
have a +4 Armons and I can't get him to like 450, 460, 470 speed,
hmm
which at my level is what you want. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but
Yeah, it's crazy.
if you're going first at the high level, you're probably 470, 480 or higher speed, um, versus a lot of players. So I've got him in supersonic. It's always nice to surprise somebody and potentially cut in, but you still have to
Mm,
have him pretty fast if you're doing that.
yeah, yeah,
Most
yeah.
of the time, unless you're facing like an Arbaeus Sifi combo, where they're going to stack a ton of buffs
Mm,
to start something out. So be really cognizant if you're going to use him there. You certainly could use him in pinpoint. You can use him in stone skin with
yeah,
reaction. You can use like there's so many different ways to build him. It really just depends on what gear you have available.
yeah.
Um, I think his best build overall still is go first,
hmm
right? If you are I don't want to say certain, but if you are confident you can win speed races, Armand's probably still overall best going first. But like you said, the more and more people get Wanda submission, the more that could end up backfiring
Yeah,
potentially.
for sure, for sure. In terms of one thing I'm always wondering with any sort of champ like this as well is hitting that balance between speed and accuracy. I
Yeah,
don't know if you have
yeah.
like a preference on this. Like, are there any?
Speed over accuracy.
Okay.
Speed over accuracy because the biggest threat you're going to face typically on a team is going to be their nuker,
Mm,
right? Nukers do not have high resistance as a general rule of thumb. And so even if you're not going to be able to turn meter control, a Duchess, maybe someone has a resistance Duchess or things like that,
yeah, yeah.
if you're taking their nuker out of play or stripping buffs off their nuker, you are removing the main threat that can destroy you. Like a Duchess is not going to kill an Armand's usually. I just say there's always
There's
exceptions,
always
Dub. So I don't
one.
want to come out and be like, if you die, you are the worst. No, there's always exceptions. Like Armand's is the last one on the team, and this nuke Duchess just doesn't stop. She's filthy strong. So like, really you have to think about like what is the biggest threat to you, and the
Yeah.
answer is pretty much almost always there. Again, if someone has a Galathir, they might be able to lock you out or do things like that with block active skills, but nukers, right? And
Mm,
you don't need a ton of accuracy to shut down a nuker. What you do need is speed to make sure you go ahead of everybody else so that you can crowd control that specific nuker.
makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, for my I went within because I've got him 6 star as well. I've got intimidating presence playing into that
Mhm.
speed thing. I don't. What do you run on your one? Do you have that or
I have
poly?
intimidating presence on him as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
just to make sure I have someone on the team that's going to give me an aura boost.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You could certainly run him in temporal chains if you're running him in stone skin. You could run him in a couple different things. You could run him in polymorph even.
Yeah. 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 For sure.
Hypothetically, where if you're going like a little more go second, that's a viable option as well. But I do
Cool.
like him in intimidating presence because I do have mine built not super fast and supersonic, but fast enough to where I want to make sure I get that potential speed win.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I've got him in the old budget molten death bell for the relic.
Oh
I
baby.
don't. What are we thinking for relics for Armanz?
Certainly the gold standard would be the wand of submission.
Yeah.
I think would be your best overall. And keep in mind, we're not mentioning any of the mythical relics because realistically, the
Yeah.
chances that you have,
Chrono Cube,
the speed,
right?
what was Chrysalis of Rebirth or
Oh
whatever the
yeah,
other ones
yeah,
are that give you massive speed boosts is probably pretty low.
yeah. Do you have any
So
mythic relics yet yourself?
no, not
No.
even close.
No, me neither.
I'm surprised I have mythical gemstones at this point, Nub. Like I've gotten, I think, 2 mythical
Oh
gemstones.
wow, nice.
And surprisingly, actually, one of them is a really good one. I got one of the Boss Slayer gemstones,
Oh
which
nice.
is
Yeah.
huge for PvE and made a massive difference in my Chimera damage. Which of course, we just worked on my Chimera team together. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you,
That was
Nub,
good
for
fun.
helping me out there.
um,
Definitely improved that drastically.
cool.
Yeah, wand of submission, gold standard. You could certainly use Orb of Transfixion here because
Oh yeah.
you could hypothetically steal some of those if
Sounds good.
you AoE, like maybe someone has stone skin, but you're still AoE A2ing to steal turn meter from someone who doesn't. You could hypothetically steal that stone skin buff.
Makes
That's
sense.
viable.
Yeah.
Again, anything that gives you increased speed, gives you increased accuracy.
Yeah.
Probably a pretty safe bet on your boy Armanz.
Cool. All right. That's it. 2 more, and we'll go through them fairly quickly. Let's go to Lady Noelle, because I think she's such an interesting champ. She's got that 30% speed aura. I've seen a good few people using her. I don't know if she's used a ton at top level. I know there was a bug where her passive was like lowering everyone's speed. I think it's fixed now. But
Yeah, it is.
but
It
yeah,
is
like
fixed, but that is hilarious.
yeah, right. I think it was there for quite a while too. But yeah, what
Yeah,
have you
it
seen?
was.
Have you seen much Lady Noelle? Like, how do you look to build her? I had her like high accuracy, and I flipped her to sort of okay resistance. Honestly, I feel this is too low for my level. I find she just gets debuffed anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your sort of
It's
feeling on Lady Noelle?
Yeah, you don't see her at the high end
Okay.
really at all anymore now that the bug has been fixed. I haven't seen her, or I didn't see her once the other night.
Mm.
Great champion still certainly viable. The lower you are, the more viable this champion becomes.
Mhm.
You know, high accuracy, never a bad thing to place a freeze on people. The biggest thing here is, are you going to get through any kind of stone skin, right? Do people
Yeah.
have barrel? Do they have stone skin? Do they have things up? And I think we all know how prevalent that is in the game now. So I could understand building her in a resistance build, but definitely I agree with you. I think you need to get more resistance on her, which is crazy because
Yeah.
she's at what, 700 resistance
Yeah,
right now?
almost 700, but yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough.
I remember a time in the game when that was an incredible resistance build, and now that's like, well,
Mm-mm.
no, got to up those totals, my bro.
Yeah, I could switch some stuff up. Maybe I'll get a relic or something. In terms of her, so you probably wouldn't be putting your best relic on her, seeing as she's not super top end. But I mean, if she is your top champion, again, I'd be guessing Wand of Submission.
What a submission. I mean, like, I hate saying the same thing for every
I know,
champion,
right?
but there really is a clear demarcating line between that specific relic
Yeah,
and everything else for anyone that debuffs. I mean, that relic is so incredibly strong. And I can't tell you how many times I was wanding people to the point where I was literally screaming, "Get wanded!" The other night when I was streaming,
nice.
when I thought that it happened. Sometimes I couldn't tell, but
Yeah,
yeah, that I mean, for any debuffer, that is almost always going to be your best choice. It's just so much better.
yeah.
It's not even close. But
She's not bad with
again,
Hallowed Hilt, I'd say, or Chrysalid as
sure.
well. If
Yeah,
you're
Chrysalid
lucky
would
enough.
be great. Any Reviver would be phenomenal with that. If you're lucky enough to pull that, congratulations. I would
Yeah.
probably, for her,
Mhm.
I would probably put a Chrysalid on her just because that's such, I mean, 2 turns when it's fully upgraded is so incredibly strong,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Mhm.
And that speed boost, 24 extra speed is kind of filthy.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. All right. And then the final champion is a champion that most people, I did fight one today, actually. Someone whipped him out, and I was
Did
like,
you?
oh, wow. Yeah, but it's the fusion that you guys are doing right now,
Oh,
Mr. Fabian. Yeah, I fought him today. I was like, you pulled
how'd it
one.
go?
Congratulations to you, sir. He's got 13 reviews. I clearly fought one of the 3. one of the 13 people. But yeah, what do we think of Fabian in terms of build? We can, let's say, reference a Yumiko is very similar, the most similar champ that I've got on my account. But yeah, like I'd be looking. My theory on Fabian was just go fast as possible, just max
Yep.
speed, lock him out. Is that what you feel as well, or?
For sure. For sure. I think that's going to be your best build here. Think of it as like an Armanz. You know what I mean? You could build them different
Right.
ways, similar to Armanz, but definitely
Yeah.
speed kills.
Mm.
Speed's the most dominant thing in the meta currently, um, depending on level. So yeah, absolutely speed and accuracy going to get
Yeah.
you more value out of this champion, more than anything else. And if you can't get the speed, then think about Stone Skin, think about reaction with Stone Skin,
Mm.
think about stuff that keeps him alive so that you have a better chance of him actually taking a turn.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted because my Yumiko's quite slow. I don't even have the Faction Guardian, not even close to finished. So like I'm missing
Mm.
that speed and the accuracy. I'm like, I've got Undead finished and Fabian's got higher base speed. I'm like, oh, if I get a 5-star soul, I'm like, man, do I switch my gear from the Yumiko to the Fabian? He's affinity friendly, he's kind of nice. It's conflicting, but we'll see. So yeah, we're looking at this sort of stuff. Oh, go on.
It's a tricky one. It's a
Yeah.
tricky one, you know? I don't
Mm.
know. That depends on your account, right? That's what I would say. Well, it's all relative. No,
It's
all
all
relative.
it's all relative. Very true. So for Fabian though, anything like I think he's got that. I would say for a relic, one that stood out to me was the I don't know if there's any other ones. What is it? This one, which was like this is the Crixia relic. Like you've got the chance to lock out on a weak hit. That's pretty good for him.
Yeah, that's actually not bad whatsoever. Absolutely considering that, especially because you see more and more Magic Affinity champions
Yeah.
in
Lots of them.
Arena now than anything else, and a lot of the best nukers are
Nice
Magic Affinity
seekers,
or
yeah.
like supports, those areas, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, that's a very viable option. You could hypothetically build a Fabian in an Affinity Breaker, but you're probably going to sacrifice so many stats there
Yeah.
from a gear perspective that it's probably not worth it. So
Yeah, agreed. That's so much speed to give up. I'm like, oh, I don't know. What any
yeah.
more sort of budget relics that are good? Probably anything with accuracy, I suppose.
Water submission. No,
One of submission. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, man, he wouldn't get polymorphed
water
on his
submission.
A2, right? Let's go.
Better put him on that water submission.
10 wonder submissions,
God.
please, sir. One for every champion.
Anytime, man. This is just title this video "Water Submission."
Yeah.
Let's see here. Harpa Casbiel. Where's turn meter spells by 5% each time they use a skill that doesn't deal damage?
Oh, I think he
dealing
did
damage on that A3 or
yeah,
not?
he
That attack,
does.
that's an
Yeah,
attack,
so
right?
that was one thing I tested him out on the test server, and like I think the first battle did the A3 lockout, and it was against Taras Marishka, and Taras was like, "Bam, sit down,
Boom,
son.
annihilated.
One
Yeah.
shot,
Sit down.
sit down."
Sit down.
Yeah,
So that's why Stone Skin could be a viable build for him if you're trying to face those champions. I think the hardest part with his kit is do you strip everything on that A3, you know, in order to get that extra turn.
very difficult. So the problem I found as well is that
difficult.
blessing. So like Lightning Cage and Ward of the Fallen,
Mhm,
stop it, and intercept from from pinpoint set, you can't strip that. So that stops it as well. It's really hard. And then Stone Skin is the 50-50. So I found you almost never get the extra turn. It's a bit of a bait. Sadly.
That is true. That is very true.
Yeah.
That is true. Tough.
That's life, eh? It's the raid way. But hey, Drop, cheers for jumping on and talking us through. Hopefully it's helpful to people. And again, you can jump. I think you were saying in one of your videos recently that you're going to be doing like a full run through of your main account. I think you did one, your free to play account, and you're looking to do one for the main. So is that coming out soon? Is that still on the menu?
You know, I was going to do it today, and then I woke up late, Nub.
Okay.
So maybe I'll get it done today to come out tomorrow if I'm lucky on a Friday. But I don't know about you.
Your time, right?
yeah. No. This is. I was happy to get to do this. I don't know about you, but I feel like when I release videos on Fridays, they never do really well. People are out doing stuff. They're like getting ready for the weekend. They don't want to watch Raid and you know talk about want a submission. They want to go like. I don't know where I'm going with this, but they want to go out and get drinks and have a good time. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it.
Fridays for shard pull videos. That's the day. That's the trick.
There you go. Fridays for shard pull videos. But
that's the rule.
I'm gonna do an account overview of my main account because I haven't done that in a while, and we'll see if I'm quote unquote still a Kraken.
Well, guys, I mean, you saw Drock walking us through 7 more accessible-ish champs here today, and a couple extra bonuses. If you want to see even more in-depth and top-level builds for an even bigger, well, much bigger variety of champs, go check that video out on Drock's channel. You'll find it all linked down below. And again, Drock, thank you so much for jumping on. It has been a blast and a pleasure as always. Yeah, any last words you want to say before we hop off here?
Nah, man, just so thankful to get a chance to collab with you, dude, and also really appreciative. You've done such incredible work on my channels, helping me out with Hydra and Chimera, and really, really appreciate your time on that. So thanks so much for having me on, and can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, thank you for watching. Check out Drock in the links down below, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.